What are functional methods? Functional methods are methods which have n number of, you can go and mute Ranjan, which have n number of importing parameters and a returning parameter, only one returning parameter. It cannot have more than one returning parameter. This kind of methods we call them as functional methods. Okay. So functional method is nothing but they will have a returning parameter. Let's write a simple program and see that how to use a functional method. Very simple program. Later on I'll make it complex. So in our institute we don't write very simple programs. Just one program to make you understand. Then we can write some further coding in that. I will define a local class. Very basic program this is, end class. I will define a visibility for my components. I'll define an instance method. You can take any name, method name. You can take any name like addition or add, whatever. I'm importing two variables, I1 type I2 type I, and I'm returning parameters are always passed by value. You have to use the value keyword along with the parameter and enclose the parameter in brackets. So functional method or the returning parameter is always passed by value. You know that whenever a class has a method, you have to implement the method. Methods cannot be implemented outside the class. They should be always part of the class. So to implement a method, first you have to implement the class, then you have to implement the method. Syntax is same: method, method name, end method. And this is very simple, you know that. Now what I will do is, I will do start of selection. I will use start of selection. Okay, I don't need this as, if you make instance, then you need an instance. Let's create. So this is public method. You can call outside. Yes, I can call outside. What is level? It is at instance level or instance method. So you need instance of the class, which is nothing but object. So the syntax to create an object is create object, give any object name, and define this object, telling the system this is a reference referring to what class. Once you create an object, you can go here and you can call the method. Control spacebar, everything control spacebar. You don't need to go out up and down and write yourself. I can pass some values here, hard-coded values I can pass. Returning will become receiving while calling. LV result, the data type should be equivalent of result. So I will define LV result, which is of type I. Very simple program. So any doubt till here, Saurav or anyone? Anyone? Do you have any doubt till this? Okay.
No.
Okay. See the beauty of functional method. See the beauty of functional method. In functional method, suppose you are capturing the result where right now on the right side. You can also capture how many receiving parameter you can have, only one. So what you can do is you can capture the result on the left side also. This is another way to do in Webdyn Pro. You are going to do this way only. Standard class, whatever. This is the approach SAP follows. Even we have to follow the same approach. Okay. So you can capture the result on the left side. Okay, and then you can pass the parameters whatever is there. So whenever you do like this, you don't need to again add an additional keyword called as exporting here. The reason is function method will always have what type of parameter? They have importing parameter and returning parameter. Importing will be called as exporting. When you have separated the receiving parameter to the left side, explicitly if you use the word exporting, system won't allow, because system knows that by default they are importing parameter of a functional method. So you don't need to use the keyword again, exporting whatever. Now this is another way you can use a functional method, and this is the preferred way of doing with a functional method. This is a preferred way of writing with a functional method. The beauty of the function method lies in one more thing is, suppose you are not interested with the result. I'm not interested with the result. I don't need this. I don't need to declare also. But the outcome of this function method, I want to use it. So you can use functional method in a logical expressions like this, in if condition and statements. If the sum, assume that I just want to write something. If the sum, whatever the output is result, right? If that is greater than 200, I can write a statement. I'm not interested with that value. I just want to use that as one of my condition or one of my expression, and just determine that. Any doubt on this one? So are you clear with this? Are you clear with this? You can see that you can call a method, and you can use that functional method in the receiving parameter also, as a receiving parameter. You can receive in the left side. We can also use that in a condition like this. Clear? So that's what the note here. I already showed you their note. So we have these notes. Already notes are ready for this. Okay, the program what I did right now I already kept here in this notepad. Now see here, whenever you have a functional method, I'm trying to add one more parameter called as exporting. I'm trying to add one more parameter called as exporting. If you check the syntax, you get an error here. What is the error is, whenever you have a returning parameter, you cannot have exporting or changing parameter at the same time. You cannot have exporting or changing parameter in the at the same time. Is this clear? Are you clear? But that rule is no more being followed. That rule is no more being followed. I will just show you one document which I recently posted. Okay, you can see here, this is the document which I posted. One second, write down. I'm not able to catch that. Okay, anyway, so One second, I'll show you another thing. So right now I'm in EHP7 server. I'm using this server for my project in Theory and UI5. I just want to show you this rule which we are right now we are talking. I hope my user ID is not disabled. Okay, see this. I was telling you here in this system I'm getting an error telling that exporting parameters are not allowed whenever you have a functional method, right? Same thing I'm doing in EHP7 server. This is the latest server what you have in the market. So I'm using this for my fairy and all those things. So, so many people still doesn't know this concept. So I want to make sure that you know that a method with a returning parameter should not have exporting and changing parameter. That concept was well and good before EHP7. Now you see here, I'm trying to add what? Exporting, and I check the syntax. Here do I have a problem? There's no problem because I'm in the EHP7 latest version. But the same problem I'll face over here. Okay, so don't end up in interview telling that the returning parameter you have in a method you cannot have changing or exporting parameter. You can have changing or exporting parameter also, but from which version onwards? EHP 7. From EHP 7. Is this clear? So are you clear? Those who are online. So are you clear, Saurabh?
Yes, sir. Clear.
Is this clear? Fine. So I've written very
Yeah,
basic
it's clear.
program. Okay, fine. So I written very basic program to make you understand how a returning parameter works. Okay. Now let's see the beauty of returning parameter in another way. In another way. Try to catch this program. Your life will be simplified when you go with web design or whatever I'm doing right now. I'm defining a class. Okay. So I'm going to have a method, and this method will use to create instance. A method which creates its own instance is known as factory method. Actually, I'll come to later. So this method will create the self instance, and this method will return the self reference of the class, which is nothing but type reference to LCL underscore main. Any doubt? Please ask me first. What is this method is returning? Object reference of which class? LCL main. Okay. So now whenever you have a method in a class, the rule is same. You have to first implement the class, and then you have to implement the method, and method name is whatever create. It's very lengthy name I given. Anyways, one more method I'm creating here, which is an instance method. Something. It is here. Just a given. I will tell you why I'm doing like this. Now what is the purpose of this method? What code you're going to write is, this method is returning what? Object reference. So how do you create an object reference? Create object. You don't need to declare again because this parameter has been already declared. This much clear? Now again
So
what you
this
do?
method,
Yes.
this method we used to call as a factory method, right? Which
Yes.
will
Yes. Yes.
return.
Yes. I'm going to change it to factory later. Right now it's only learning without factory and all to make you understand
Okay.
the power of functional method. Okay. So now you see here instance method, just a simple write statement. I'm instance method, sir. Generally, you cannot call an instance method from a static method because within a static you cannot access instance levels components. So now I created my method. Now what I do is in my start of selection, I don't need to create an object. I will go and call this method, which is the method static method. What is the visibility? See that public. Can you call outside? Yes. What is the level?
Yes.
Static. To call a static level components, you have to always use the class name equal to greater than, and you can use the, what is the output of this?
Class and
Output of this is nothing but I will write in this way. You can go and mute Ranjan.
yes, sir. Hello.
Yeah, yeah, you can go and mute please. So the output of this, can I capture on the left side? Yes, right. So yes, I capture on the left side. Now I can go and call the method called as instance method. This is one way. But see here, how many lines of code you written for this? 2, 3 lines totally. Suppose I told you the power of using a returning parameter is, you don't need this one. Directly you can use output of a method. Output of this method is nothing but an object. Using that object you can go and call the other method, instance method. That's all you have to do. In one single line I have written this code. Going forward in WebDAN Pro, I may have 5, 6 classes also. I will write my code entirely in one single line in ALV reporting in WebDAN Pro. This feature only I am using. Output of a class is input to another class, another method. So you have any doubts on this? Are you clear what I am doing here? So I would rather prefer this approach than the commented one. Any doubts, Saurav or no?
No, sir. It's clear.
Fine. So this all a very small program what we are writing. Just to show you the returning parameter return this one. In the next class we will talk about the class level instantiation. Class level instantiation. You want I can talk right now. So let's talk that also. Okay. Now see this class. Why I have written like this is, let me write in a separate program. All programs will send you through mail. What do you mean by class instantiation? What do you mean by class instantiation? Instantiation. What do you mean by class instantiation? Class instantiation means how a class can be instantiated or can be created or can create an object. It's nothing but class instantiation. To control the class instantiation, what we do is class name definition. Right now you're able to create an object for the class, right? The reason is where you're doing outside the class. Outside the class you're creating an object for the class, right? Like it may not be in this example. In previous example, if you see here also I can do, right? If I comment this one, if I want to create an object for my class, create object, I can do directly also, right? Create object hello underscore main. I can do like this also, right? Now if you check the syntax, any mistake? No mistake. You're able to create an object. But if you are able to create an object, then where is the encapsulation, where is the security? Then anyone can create an object and can start access my private attributes or my public attributes or whatever. Okay, so you need to decide when a class can be instantiated or how the object of a class can be created, outside, inside, or where. That is, while defining a class, you can control that. So you have to use further syntax like create public, or else you can create as a protected, or else you can create a class as private. By default, if you don't tell anything also, a class is created as public. A class is created as public by default. You check the syntax, no problem. But if you create a class as a protected means you cannot create an object of a class outside. If you want to create or instantiate the class, you can only instantiate within the same class or in the subclass, but not on the outside. You can see the syntax. If you make a class as private, then you can instantiate the class only within the same class. Now you can see that my class is protected. I cannot create an object. In previous case you can create, but in this case you cannot create an object. Why? Because the class is protected. Then even if a class is protected, I can use a public method of static. So if a class is protected, now I want to call this instance method. Can I call this method? You cannot call this method. Why? You cannot create an object for this class directly outside. But a public static method you can call. But you cannot call a instance method of a private class directly. Let it be public also. Now this method is public. You cannot call. Why you cannot call? Because it's an instance method. What you need for instance method? You need instance of the class which you cannot create. See, if my class is public, I will do like this: create an object. Okay, then use that object and call the instance method. I can do like this. But your class is right now protected, so it will not allow you to create object. This much clear? So that is the reason I kept my method as static. This is allowed, and you can call the instance method. Interview question will start like this: I have a method in a private class, which is instance method. How to call the instance method outside? This will be the interview question. So what is the answer? You have to use a public method which will return the object of the class, which will instantiate the class within itself, and it will return that. Because if a class is protected or private also, the public static methods can be called outside the class. So make sure that your functionality you put under that one thing. Yeah, who has a doubt? Yeah, Ranjan, you can come out of mute, you can ask the doubt.